you ever feel like you're being watched?
Even in your backyard, I can guarantee you're not alone. Walking past a bush or a flower, you might not think twice, but a closer look, and you'll find that there are quite a lot of eyeballs staring back at you, watching your every move while hiding in plain sight. I'm Spencer Hoffman, and today, we're going to be venturing into the world of these strange creatures that watch us every day, and get you up close and personal with some of the weirdest camouflaged insects in North America. The world of insects is vast. Everywhere you turn, there's another one, and the deeper you go, the weirder they get. So we need a good starting point, and what better place to start than one of the most garden variety insects of them all, the grasshopper. As generalist herbivores, just about every patch of vegetation will have some variety of these funny-looking insects. With their plant-heavy diet, these insects are full of energy, which means for predators that prowl their habitat, the grasshopper is practically candy. Grasshoppers are pretty much the bottom of the food chain, and find themselves getting eaten by just about everything. Without potent toxins or overly powerful jaws, the grasshopper needs to get creative if it's going to survive. And in many cases, this means some of the most incredible disguises in the world.
Let's see if I can grab him. Oop. Got him. This is a toothpick grasshopper, and you get their name because they look just like a toothpick, or a little piece of stick. Now, out here in a palmetto scrub, this would give him perfect camouflage in the little scrub grasses. They're very drab colored, thin appearance, means they don't stick out at all. I saw him jump. I was able to track where he landed visually. These are extremely easy to lose in this environment, but they're actually everywhere. I absolutely love camouflaged cryptic insects like this. This is an example of mimicry. This animal mimics the plants that it hides on. A really incredible feat of evolution there. This is something that over millions of years has evolved to be more and more slender, had that long, pointy head. He looks just like a piece of grass or a dead pine needle, and to predators, that's not very enticing. How about that? Now, grasshoppers are among my favorite insects, but camouflaged grasshoppers are extremely special. Absolutely love seeing these guys, and believe it or not, this is actually a full-grown adult. This particular species never has wings. So they're totally ground-dwelling, scrub grass-feeding species, just living out their lives, hopping from blade of grass to blade of grass out here in this absolutely beautiful habitat.
Seemingly restricted to coastal scrub habitat, these camouflaged grasshoppers take advantage of their slender bodies to almost invisibly leap to safety, quickly disappearing into the wiry grasses. To even the most trained eye, tracking these insects can be incredibly difficult, helping these pointy little creatures to survive. Their camouflage is so cunning that it's more often the predators they don't see that get them in the end.
Alright, I want you to hear this. This is a nice sized bush by my house. You hear that? That's a katydid.
After dark, a symphony calls from the trees. Katydids are an evolutionary cousin of the grasshopper, but they take camouflage to a whole new level. For many katydids, their outer wings have adapted to look exactly like leaves, allowing them to stay invisible during the day as they wait for their nighttime chorus. A cunning eye can sometimes pick them out against the brush though, allowing us to take a closer look at one of the weirdest creatures alive.
Alright, can you see that? Right there. I see antenna sticking up. Yep, he's starting to move. Yeah, that's our katydid, alright. That's a male. This is a true katydid, and they are unbelievably camouflaged and unbelievably weird looking, and they will bite, so you gotta be careful. But fortunately, they are not venomous or anything. You're in no danger. If one of these guys bites you, you're just gonna have a little bit of a pinch. This guy is a male, and I can tell because with katydids, all the females are gonna have ovipositors, and they almost look like these big old stingers that come off of the back of the abdomen of the animal. This guy does not have an ovipositor, and he's really mad about me checking him back there. So he's very clearly a male. Another reason I can tell is with this species, the males are gonna have these ridges on the back of their wings, just like a cricket would. And they use that to rub them together to produce that iconic sound that these guys make once it's nighttime. Being an herbivore tends to lend itself to needing special tactics to survive. And the grasshoppers aren't the only ones who figured that out. The caterpillar is about as perfect a snack as you could ask for out in the wilderness. They're slow, they're soft-bodied, and they're just packed full of nutrients from gorging themselves on plants all day. Meaning that they too need some pretty cunning camouflage if they want to survive. All right, now this is the pine devil caterpillar. And a caterpillar of this size, I had to guess, he's probably going to become a pupa real soon. And these guys, you're thinking big caterpillar, big moth. These guys are actually going to become a moth in the family of the regal moths. Now, this exact species, interestingly enough, I've never seen the adults before out here in central North Carolina. This is actually one of the first times I've ever seen a pine devil in the wild. But these guys are super, super awesome, and they have that absolutely mental looking appearance. You're probably wondering, do these guys sting? You've seen a lot of different caterpillars in the wild that do sting, especially like saddlebacks and a lot of slug caterpillars. But do these guys sting? That is an important question, and they absolutely do not. Those horns on them are hard and rigid, but you can actually touch them with no problem. And I'm not having any. Oh, he is leaning into it a little bit. He's like, I'm all horned. Don't touch me. But it's completely a ruse. This is not going to hurt you if you pick it up or touch it. And they're super cool to look at. Look at him go. Oh, look at him. Look at that. Look at that defensive move right there. This caterpillar is super defensive right now. You can see his entire face has been sucked in to the sort of like fat rolls that he has along his thorax. And his actual legs are all kind of up and curled in. What he's actually hanging on to this branch with are these pseudo legs. They're almost like these muscly suction cups that he uses to grip onto things. And if you feel, a lot of these larger caterpillars are packed with muscle. They are really, really strong. And when he's doing this little defensive thing, you can just feel the muscle just rippling in his body. It's incredible.
While caterpillars and katydids sport some incredible disguises, there is one herbivore that claims the title of master when it comes to camouflage: the phasmids.
Before I say anything, I want to know if you can see it. Can you see what I'm looking at? It's right there. Look at this. Now this is something that is truly special. Some people might bully me for this because they're not rare per se. This is a walking stick, and they're one of my absolute favorite insects of all time. Just look at the anatomy of this creature. It is so strange, so bizarre, and so stick-like. They have absolutely mastered camouflage and crypsis. Now, this is a nice, pretty male, and I can tell he has those long, long antennae, and the abdomen looks a little different on males. I don't know the name for the actual anatomy parts, but once they realize they've been spotted, they do move around a little bit. But they are so strange looking, and they'll be hanging out on branches and even low-lying shrubs, shady parts of a woodland. Such an incredible feat of evolution right there. Over millions of years, these guys have basically begun to look more and more like the vegetation that they inhabit. You can even see, the closer you look at them, they have the slight discoloration at the joints like you'd see on some branches, a little bit of mottling, greens, and faded browns. And on a lot of these hardwoods, they look just like the branches, which makes them really difficult to find because they're not that rare, but they are so camouflaged that they go relatively unseen. Gotta be very careful when handling them because these guys are extremely fast to throw off limbs. That is probably one of their main defense mechanisms, unlike their cousins, the two-stripe. These guys don't spray poison at you, so there's not really anything that this insect can do to really hurt you, but it will throw off a leg in defense to try to escape, and we don't want him to be missing a leg. Look how long and lanky they are, and the way they move is just so unreal.
While North American walking sticks tend to stick to that twig-like appearance, further south into the tropics, they take on all sorts of crazy shapes and sizes. Across the world, the phasmids are some of the best plant mimics of any terrestrial animals, and can truly be nearly invisible on the right substrate. Even more than camouflage, a lot of what we're seeing in these insects is what we call mimicry. They aren't just modeling their appearance to obscure their outlines, they are quite literally trying to look like the plants they're eating. And in the insect world, mimicry isn't restricted to helping you fade into the background either. From a distance, you might think that this is a group of ants scuttling around the bark of this tree, but a closer look reveals that this is actually a species of longhorn beetle. Most predators have learned that many ants have powerful bites and stings, so they wouldn't get close enough to find out, meaning that these beetles are left well alone. The Hymenoptera, bees, ants, and wasps, are such a successful group of insects that many other arthropods were bound to ride their coattails. Many completely harmless insects disguise themselves as wasps or bees, and it works wonders for them. But perhaps the most cunning mimicry isn't visual at all, but chemical. This tiny little insect is actually a cricket. The adults don't get much bigger than a sesame seed, but it's another evolutionary cousin to the katydids and grasshoppers. But this cricket is different. Its vision is practically useless. It actually lacks the ability to hear, and its tiny back legs aren't very useful for quick escapes. And yet, it makes its home in the nest of one of the deadliest insects on Earth, ants. The ant cricket, as it's named, has a trick. Ants use chemical cues to communicate with one another, and this cricket has cracked their code. By coating its body in the smells of the ant colony, it becomes invisible to its venomous roommates, and is able to freely raid their food stores without so much as a hint of danger. As a defense, mimicry is probably one of the most cunning tools of all, but it's not just the herbivores that have discovered its usefulness. There are those that have evolved to use it as a weapon.
We've got a mantis. It's a big Chinese mantis, a male. He's blending in with this lily right here.
One of the most iconic insects in the world, the praying mantis is the peak arthropod predator. Nearly invisible within the vegetation, this ambush hunter can take on just about anything that crosses its path. Most of the mantises keep a general stick-like appearance, not unlike the phasmids, but even here in the US, there are mantises that have even more cunning camouflage. In the south, a few species have adopted a rough, flattened appearance. On the bark of trees, they are almost invisible amongst the lichens and mosses. These mantises are perhaps the most camouflaged insects in North America.
I've been looking for this mantis for a very, very long time. You're like, Spencer, it's just a praying mantis. What's the deal? Look at it. Look how weird it looks. You see that bizarre patterning and shape? Yeah. See, that is why this praying mantis is special. This is the grizzled mantis, and it's probably the most camouflaged praying mantis in North America. And this is a native species. There are a few other bark mantises like this in Florida, but this one is native and an absolute treasure of Florida wilderness. And that bizarre appearance is actually key to its really special biology. See, these guys are ambush hunters like other praying mantises, but unlike most praying mantises, they're a little weird, which is why I've been after them for so long. Every time I'm in Florida, I'm always looking out on trees to see if I can see a pair of eyes staring back at me. And finally, Florida has delivered. Now, these guys have both disruptive and mimic-based camouflage. Usually, praying mantises are just kind of slender and stick-like and are nondescript green or brown, and they rely on that slender appearance to blend in. But this one has the whole 9 yards. If you've been watching the channel for a long time, you know how much I like camouflaged insects. And just look at this thing. Not only is its shape like a piece of lichen sticking out on a bark, look at that patterning. That patterning obscures its outline so it doesn't look like a praying mantis. And that's very useful for defending itself from predators, but it's also extremely useful for hiding from prey. See, I said they were ambush predators. These guys aren't out actively hunting. They can move pretty quick if they're disturbed, but they're not chasing down their prey. They're sitting there and they're waiting. But the way that they wait is extremely unusual. See, we've covered praying mantises here on the channel, and we know that they're extremely smart. And this one is no exception. You can see as she's walking over my hands here, she's kind of figuring things out. She's looking at me, she's looking at the camera. She's very aware, very intuitive. The praying mantis will actually sit there and kind of piece things together, kind of like a jumping spider. So I compare these guys to the cats of the invertebrate world as well. This particular species has an extremely unique hunting strategy that no other North American praying mantis has. Rather than sitting in wait on a bush or in grass, these guys sit really flat against bark with their head pointed down, and they're almost exclusively found pointed downwards. Here's why. They're taking advantage of the behavior of their prey. See, this is an arboreal species. Another reason why it's so special to be able to see, because they're usually hiding way up in trees, but their prey is also hiding way up in trees as well, which means in order to get there, they have to climb. And that means they have to climb right past this guy. Little insect walks right past, they'll shoot out those two front raptorial claws, grab the prey, and eat it alive. They are really gnarly predators out here. Unparalleled apex predators of that bark microhabitat. I love the way they sit. It's not like any other species. They hold their claws a lot more tucked in. You can kind of even see they have little grooves in their armor that allow them to tuck in even better. They've been perfectly evolved for this environment and for their really interesting hunting strategy. This is one I never thought I would get this close to. Not for a long time. I just love these camouflaged insects. And the reason being is it's almost like playing I Spy or Hidden Pictures in real life. I guarantee you, no matter where you live, there's probably some weird little things using mimicry to hide right now in your backyard. And I challenge you to try and spot them the next time you're out. The world gets a lot bigger and more interesting the more you see the weird little secrets that surround us every single day. And some of the weirdest are actually living under our feet. Recently, I went out searching for some of the strangest of these creatures out in the mountains of Arizona. If you want to see that video, check it out right here. Hope to see you there, but until next time, don't forget to get outside and find your own adventure.